Greetings. I am Dr. Noni Davis of St. C Academy. And every time I always forget to brighten this up a little bit. And I am here today representing this school, my family, the late William Edward Davis, and my mother, Sylvia Davis, who started St. Cia with founding members of St. Cia, and I am currently a legacy owner. And so today, I want to co-opt this phrase. The revolution is being televised. I think it was before it was, the revolution will not be televised, but I think Gil Scott Heron is being televised. So we've seen all these protests. I saw an article where it said that there are protests happening in all 50 states. All 50 states. And they said this is a phenomenon because this has never happened under any other president. This is the first time in history that every state has had protest against the president. And we also are under the most unqualified, highly unqualified individual in this office with the lowest approval ratings since opinion polls have been taken. So I was intrigued because all of his are like in the negative. They had the baseline. I looked at the graph today, and it was a baseline, and that baseline is 0. And until he got the only area where people were happy, which is very disconcerting because I like Americans are crazy, is related to this immigration thing. There are people who are actually, they said 50% of the United States. Maybe they're taking the polls in different places. I have no idea because I don't 100% trust polls, but it's like they're saying that 50% of people, over 50% of people approve of what he's doing. And so I would like to know where that is, because I don't think most people are approving of this foolishness. This is outrageous. And the folks who are approving it are probably going to be the ones that are most deeply affected by it, because what you gonna eat? The immigrants do everything in this country. This the Latino community. They're the ones that are involved in industry. They're the ones that are able to get these contracts, and a lot of it is because they are people are underbidding, and so it's not that Black people are not there trying to get the contracts, but Latinos are giving a lower bid and able to, get these contracts that a lot of other folks are not getting. And then they're willing to work at these crazy hours because they're doing the best that they can. I'm not mad at them at all, but it's very disturbing to see what is playing out right now. But this is really the root of America. It's really crazy. If you read the history of America, you will not be surprised at what's going on. There's always been protesting, but I want to go back to what we've been doing. Target is so funny. They lost $12.4 billion in their stock and in their customer in their customer service and customer product or their production, or no, their sales. So I'm just going to leave it right there because the words escape me. Amazon and Walmart did not do as badly, but they are now under more investigation about their business practices, which they should with this. I ain't giving you $40 hours a week because I don't want to pay your Medicaid. So they've come under much more scrutiny in the way they treat their workers. We also have, who else is up here? Tesla. We know what happened to Tesla. He lost billions of dollars in stock worldwide. And then we also have a worldwide boycott. America is experiencing a global boycott where 48% of Canadians will not be traveling to the USA for vacation. They said 71 to 76% of flights, overseas flights have been canceled. 17% from Europe and 23% from Mexico. These people are not coming to see us. Um, the U.S. generally has a $2.3 trillion industry of tourist industry, and it has been projected that we will lose $90 billion in 2025 in just our tourist industry. So, like I said, though, you know, this is crazy. So Delta and United Airlines have faced lower international reservations, and Coca-Cola and other American companies are experiencing reduction in international markets. So people are not buying our Coca-Colas and our or American-made products. They're not doing it. So this is America under the Project 2025 regime. And in my opinion, this is America returning to its roots, its foundation. We know that Europeans came to this land and they said they were here for, because of God and because they were being oppressed, religious persecution. But we know that's a fairy tale. It's not true. They came in search of gold, resources to expand the empires. Is so the phrase that was coined was God, gold, and glory, and that's what they came for. But let's take God out of it, and it was just God and glory, and greed. It probably be God. It should be greed, gold, and glory. That would be. Those should be the three G's. And we know that they brought their own people over here, white indentured servants. They brought them here, and but they said white indentured servants, they didn't want to do all that work. They were not going to do all that work. Some of them, at this point, if you were white and you were Christian, you could not be mistreated. Of course, we know that's not true. But they were these people, these indentured servants had these 7-year and 11-year contracts, and they were tired. They're like, I'm not doing all this work. And so a lot of them were also able to escape. They could leave, Virginia and just travel over the border and get to Maryland. And, people could restart their life or restart their identity. They could not be easily caught as a result. And so here we are. Um, and they also were, it's interesting because who is it? Let's see. Oh, George Washington. In my last post, one of my previous postings, said that they were unreliable and they were not hard workers, and so he had Ona Judge's father as his tailor, but he, as a rule, did not want to hire indentured servants. But the other thing is that they had to pay them, and so this was a way. So the way to get out of paying them was to get Africans. But even before the Africans came, the Europeans tried to get these Indians, the indigenous people, these First Nations people, to fight for them. But they were not able to handle all of these diseases that these Europeans brought over here with them. They brought death, the Black Death, over here with them, and and smallpox and all kinds of stuff. And they said with 90% of these, the population of indigenous was reduced in 75 years. 90% were off this planet, destroyed by these Europeans. And so finally, like I said, they had to go get these Africans. And one of the misnomers is that, and I think I've been very clear about it, is that Africans came over here with skilled labor. They, Europeans were up first just obsessed with this gold, but while they were there, they were like, oh, wait, these people can grow some cotton. And these people, oh wow, they got some serious blacksmithing skills. And oh wait, they can grow indigo. Look at their clothes and the weaving that they're doing, and they have medicinal practices, and they know these plants and what they can do. So there were multiple reasons to bring Africans over here, and we had Timbuktu. Some of these, you have a story about the prince who was an enslaved African on a plantation, and he could read, and his landlord, I mean, the plantation owner could read, and so the plantation owner gave him control over the entire plantation, and but he was a prince. I can't remember his name, but he's what his story, his narrative is a well known slave narrative, but but these people knew who we were, and they knew we could grow the sugar cane, they knew we could grow the tobacco, that we could um, uh, sustain, I mean, build, we could, we had architectural understanding, herbology, and then we were also physically sound. So we didn't die from the smallpox at the same rate that these Europeans did, or these Native Americans did. However, they worked us to death. And so if you work, like, for example, in sugarcane, your life expectancy was only 5 years. And so, um, another thing that was happening, oh, I forgot to mention this, at the indentured servants, the white indentured servants were, a lot of them were malnourished. But after a while, when they came to the states and they were getting regular food and everything, some of them got stronger, but some of them didn't even live long enough to fulfill their indenture. So some of them were dying with 7 years of their indenture, 11 of years of their indenture within that time frame, and their indenture was passed on to their children. Can you imagine? So the same thing that they were doing with Africans, as far as if your mama was a slave, then you were a slave. That's the same thing they were doing to these indentured servants. If your parents died before they finished their indenture, somebody could buy it, and you would have to work your parents' indenture. That was crazy. I found that out uh, in the in one of the books I was reading. What was it? Um, Copper Sun. And I can't remember the girl lady's name. It'll come to me later. But anyway, so the other thing that they did to ensure that Africans stayed enslaved was that they said, y'all are not Christians. And so then when Africans became Christians, they said, oh, let's see, you can't be, well, you're not white, so you can't be a Christian. And so I don't have to free you. And so even with indentured servants, because they were Christians or identified as Christians, or Christian and whiteness was like synonymous. So they were not able to treat them with the same level of inhumanity that they did with Africans. So things have not changed. We're still in this foolishness. So like I said, they were we have these two things, chaos and confusion that are going on underneath this current administration. And so it's in a state. The executive branch is proposing laws illegally, violating the legislative legislature, which is the lawmaking body, and disregarding the judicial branch's objections to stop illegal behavior to Washington. And George Washington did that too. I think when I talked about on a judge, he was violating the Fugitive Slave Act, and and trying to pursue her, going around these laws. So this is what these people do. This is not new behavior. Um, and he was trying to get this little 23-year-old girl who outsmarted him, the first president of the United States and the first general of the United States, was fooled and disrespected by the little 23-year-old on the judge. So the confusion, in my opinion, we got the chaos with him breaking all laws and not understanding. But the confusion for us is that most of us don't know how the legislative branches operate. We don't know what the executive branch is. We don't know what the job is, and we sure enough don't understand judiciary completely. So a quick lesson: the legislature is Congress. In your community, uh, in this city of Durham, that would be your city council. They're the ones that make laws, or present laws or answer to questions that the community has. That's the legislative branch, and but the legislator for the country is Congress and Senate, and Congress is made of representatives based on the population of the state, wherein every state has two senators, and I really think they need to abolish the senators, or at least demand time limits. I don't think that they should have more than two time limits. And if the president can only do 4 years, and it's 8 years and you're done, why these other people got to be here more than 8 years? Everybody got to be gone 8 years. Get out. Maybe 10 at the most, but they need to get gone. This 6 years of senators. I mean, and that is the wealthiest. Those are the wealthiest people in Congress, are the senators. Bye. Y'all need to go. And then you have the judicial branch, and that is the judges. That's going to be your sheriffs. That's going to be your, um, uh, let's see, police, the enforcers. These are the people who enforce the laws that Congress has created. Congress, they create the laws, the legislation. They present bills and based on the opinions of the people, like I was saying about the city council, and they form these laws, and then they vote and they decide which ones are they going to, accept and which ones they won't. And then you have the executive branch, and a lot of people don't understand the executive branch's role. Um, Under the president, you have 15 departments. You got Department of Education, Department of Treasury, Health and Human Services, Agriculture, Energy, Commerce, Housing and Urban Development, the Department of Justice, Department of Labor, Department of Veterans Affairs. You have the Department of Defense, Department of Transportation, Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, and the Department of Interior. And so we have these 15 offices that are underneath the president, and the president is in charge of all of these. And the dumpster, that orange man up there, the most unqualified person to ever be president in the United States, doesn't care about these laws. And so he's causing a lot of um, confusion among our people because, first of all, most Americans are reading at or below seventh and eighth grade. It rose. I didn't know that. It rose. It went up to eighth grade level. And so there's people don't understand what the president's job is, what the executive branch's job, I mean, what the judicial branch's job is, and how these are supposed to keep each other in check. We don't have no checks right now. We have a Congress that is going to do whatever this fool says, and we have a judicial branch that's trying to stop him, but he does what he wants. And so America's in trouble. The revolution is going to be televised. And so most Americans just, they're going to have to figure it out. But when researching early colonial periods, you find that this is how America started. We have instances. You have these Africans over here, you got these indigenous people, you got these indentured servants, and these people started intermarrying with each other. And of course, they had to figure out, oh, wait. When these people marry, these children, who are these children going to be? So they had to create a law that if your mama was a slave, you a slave. They had laws about if you were a Christian, you can accept Jesus, but if you accept Jesus, you won't be a slave. And then so many people went and became Christians. They're like, well, stop. We're going to have to overrule that. You can only be a Christian if you're white. And so they had to continuously create laws. Oh, can I get married? No. Oh, would they let people get married? Then they had to say, no, you can't get married. You would say, oh, people could own land. That Anthony Johnson was one of the first Africans who was born. I think he was born in Jamestown, 1619, whatever, 1620. But he became a landowner of significant landowner, and owned enslaved people and indentured servants. His children lost his land because about a decade or two later, they said Africans couldn't own land. And so they were constantly flip-flopping. Africans experienced this for for centuries that they would create a law, then they would see a certain behavior, and then they were like, "Boop, we're gonna create a law for that." Africans couldn't congregate. Africans couldn't be out after dark. Africans could not have church services or any kind of gatherings without white overseeing, uh, um, um, overseers there, and so now we have these laws coming up now where women can't have autonomy over their bodies. You've got these laws breaking down, destroying education, destroying access to business capital, trying to close down African American universities, HBCUs, or at least control what's going over there. You got book bannings, so you got all of this same foolishness that was going on at the beginning of this country's. This is the legacy, this chaos and confusion, but it's untenable. It's never been, they cannot control it. People have always protested in this country, and so here we go, we're getting ready to have to start fighting again, and it's sad. um, but the thing that to me that is showing this, the actual, they're breaking down rights. They're breaking down rights. They're, access to Medicare, access to all this stuff. But this thing with taking these immigrants and displacing them, deporting them into these places, I'm like, that sounds like slavery. Because when they went to Africa and got us and brought us to this country, we did not know where we were coming to. And some of us were taken to, all over the Caribbean. We were taken all over South America. We were taken all across North America, in the Caribbean island. I mean, in the Latin America, what we call Latin America. We were taken all over the United States, beginning, when those 13 colonies. So I'm like, they're deporting these people, and this is a new form of slavery. I mean, it's like crazy. The deportation of immigrants is outrageous. And they told us that the line was only illegal immigrants, right? And so these people who were illegal and who were not going through the proper procedure to become an immigrant. And let me be clear: if you don't speak Algonquin, if you don't speak Iroquois, if you don't speak Tuscarora languages, and I don't even know if I've got those names correct, but we know that this is what Europeans identify these indigenous languages, families, language family to be. And so if you're not speaking that naturally, you are an immigrant. I don't care what. English has been here, what, 400 years. Those languages were the original languages for 70, 80, 90,000 years ago. Please, we don't care about this 400 years. Mm-mm. And so these people are being picked up now from Home Depot. These are workers, people who are going to court to follow the legal process. Their cases are being dismissed so they can be deported. We have folks going to on work sites, at farms, are just being rounded up and being taken or deported without due process. And it's clear that due process says that you have a right to know what you're accused of. You have a right to defend yourself against that accusation. And you also have a right to have a fair trial. And these people, and it doesn't matter whether you're a citizen or not, these are for anybody who is in the United States. These people are being taken to private and public prisons and detention facilities. Some of them have been deported to El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Caribbean nations, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, Uganda, South Africa, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, Ethiopia, Kenya, DRC, Congo, Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. They are taking these people and sending them to places. I think they said Djibouti too, and I think there was Iraq or Iran. Some Asian countries too. Why Are you not sending these people back to where they came from? Oh, America. This is a revolution. Okay. So this is just like the slave trades. Africans were taken from their countries and deported all over Europe and the Americas. And we're experiencing a horrible crisis. But us, unlike us, we did not know. Our ancestors did not know where they were coming. They did not know European culture. They did not know European history. They did not have social media. They didn't have history books. They didn't know these people. So these Hispanics, these Latino Hispanics, I don't understand them. They knew what these Europeans were capable of because they know what they did to us. And we did not have, like I said, any way to understand the level of greed, the level of godlessness and soullessness, the level of depravity and barbarity that these people were capable of. And we warned them. 55% of Latino men voted for Trump, and 44% voted for Kamala Harris. 55, 55, 50, 55, 50, and 45%. All right, now 62% of Latino women voted for Kamala Harris. So they're not crazy like their husbands. 38% of them voted for Trump, but 62% voted for Kamala Harris. I don't know what to say. This is so primarily Hispanic men voted for Trump, and they're the ones that he's taken out of this country. He's the one that is taking them, the men primarily. Not the women have been caught up in this too, but the men are being taken. They didn't listen to it. They said we're gonna vote for this white man and not this black woman. And now we have them being taken by force, and people are trying to defend them and help them out. But black people are like, I told you. Why you listen to me? And so it's really disconcerting. I am not supporting this at all. I think this is horrible. You've got these children these families are being attacked at graduation ceremonies. They're being grabbed from schools. They're being grabbed from, these work sites, and you see them running, and I'm like, oh my God, we're witnessing what happened to our own folks in real time. These people cannot escape. They're being caught and they're being sent, and they don't know where they are going, and their families don't know where they're being taken. And we don't, and we're presuming, are these slave labor camps? Are these people being forced to work against their will? We don't know. But they were warned. We had 400 years of information and experience, and we knew what this was going to be. And they ignored us. And so it's this mixed emotion that I have. Like, I'm so sorry. I have, Hispanic people living in my neighborhood whom I would never call the police on. I wouldn't do that. But I don't know if they wouldn't do it to me. That's crazy, right? They haven't. But I'm just saying, the shoe was on the other foot. Would they be looking out for the black folks in this community? And we don't know what's going to happen next. They got these riots, and these people are fighting back. And so I hope that we all win, and I believe we will. It's going to be a battle, though. But this is so interesting to see these people being taken like that. And I just pray for their families. I pray they will wake up and see what's going on and understand, hey, I made a mistake. And we also found out that Kamala Harris, a lawsuit has been filed because they said that she really did win the election. Hey, we don't know what's going to happen. They said September 2025. That's a long time away, but keep praying. And that's all I can say. Ashe, Ashe-yo.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mother.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.